Good call. Good call. The Rod Favre asking about the linebackers. Would like to know what you guys feel about the linebackers and who should be starting. And I know Kevin's going to jump on this in regards to how do we know who's going to start now? We got to see a lot of football, and they got to work through this.
I was going to defer to my friends and say, I guess that way. I don't know. I need to see some spring at this point. I mean, you could obviously default and say, well, Dallas Gant and Taraja Mitchell and Kayvon Pope. I mean, it's their turn, but there's nothing is given. But if you look at the snaps that were taken last year, especially with Gant and Mitchell, those were kind of the next guys up at that point. But what happens if Court Williams comes out at 100% and is able to overtake somebody? I mean, there certainly are some young guys that are ready to snap up and take those spots. So I'll hang up and listen because I really don't know if I'm ready to make a call on linebackers that are months out.
You're muted.
I was muted. Sorry. I think they are starting with a clean slate, and Al Washington is starting at ground zero with this because the best players have to play, and the defense is really, really counting on some difference makers emerging at linebacker. I mean, this is almost like it was in 2014 when they kind of turned the page and Darren Lee and Grant and McMillan and Josh Perry. Thank you for passing that name on. Those guys emerged, and I don't think any of them had really been frontline guys prior to that. And it's kind of like you just hope you get that kind of an impact by the end of the season. At the beginning of the season, it was not what it needed to be. Going back to that Navy game, they took bad angles, and of course, Navy's going to make you look bad trying with your run fits and that type of a game. But I think that's kind of where they're at. They're back running down the first baseline at linebacker right now, and they need a bunch of guys, 4 or 5 of them, to really step up. What struck me is I watched a little bit of linebacker tape today, actually, a couple games, just trying to pinpoint who was doing what. And it seemed to me that when they were the limited opportunities they got in the game, the Gant was more of the boundary of the strong side guy as well as a middle linebacker, and Mitchell was more the wide side, the weak side guy, and a middle linebacker at times, and that Pope, could fit in either way, I guess. And I don't know, it's hard to really get a gauge of what Al Washington is thinking about these guys because they kind of all cross-trained and played different positions throughout the season. So I think what they're going to do is try each of them at every spot and see where the guys fit the best, and then figure out who the best 3 are from there, and then figure out if there's any kind of situational thing that plays to somebody's strengths. Like I think Craig Young seemed like he was a good guy coming off the edge from the weak side or the wide side to come off the edge and rush the passer at times, perhaps in the early season. He must have gotten hurt because according to the snap counts I saw, he didn't play the last 4 games. But early on, he was playing as much as 20 snaps in some games. So to me, he's a guy that may have moved past Pope a little bit, at least early in the season, to get some of that critical playing time. So, again, I want to see how it all shakes out this spring. You got the young guys, Eichenberg and Melton, Court Williams, and I'm missing one more guy. I always forget the names.
You got Cody Simon in there.
Cody Simon, yes, Cody Simon. I'm always missing a name. And they're all varying sizes, and it's kind of like, do you just put the biggest guy at middle linebacker? It's not always that way. So, I don't know. I think, again, a lot for Al Washington, Kerry Combs to sift through. And I don't have any doubt that they'll have 3 linebackers on the field for the first game, but I can't tell you who they are, and I can't tell you where they're going to line up just yet.
I'm not so sure they'll have 3 linebackers to start the season. Maybe it's a 4-2-5, where maybe they go to more of a hybrid and go with a nickel. But they do need to replace the 3 guys. They need to replace Justin Hilliard, who was a do-it-all guy and just sure, you want your starters, but you also want that one guy that can come in and replace anybody. And yeah, as Steve said, Craig Young was the guy early in. He was playing ahead of Kayvon Pope, and then he disappeared. And maybe maybe it was an injury. We don't hear a lot. I don't even remember seeing him on any of the availability reports back then. But yeah, so is he still ahead of Kayvon Pope, or is one of those guys the Sam? And does it matter this spring until we see what Court Williams does? And where is Court Williams when he's healthy this fall? I think for me, that will kind of decide what the defense looks like. Because I think he's the guy who maybe he is your Sam, your bullet, your hybrid guy, and he may play a lot. And Craig Young being 6'4" and athletic, is he able to do similar things? I think so. Kayvon Pope, I think he could play inside, he could play outside. But like I think Dallas Cannon is probably your middle linebacker. He's been your backup middle linebacker for the previous 2 years. Taraji Mitchell's been the backup at will for the last 2 years, so I assume that's where he'll be. And then you let spring happen and see. Because now those guys, there's nobody ahead of them, but that doesn't mean there isn't anybody behind them. And so they're going to have to hold off those guys behind them.
I'm recognizing every name on the 2021 class list of 21 signed commits, except for a 4-star linebacker, the only linebacker that they signed in this class, and that's inside linebacker, and it might be because he's been committed for so long, Reed Carrico out of Ironton, Ohio. What's the read on him? Pardon the pun.
Reed certainly has the look. I mean, he's a guy that can play multiple positions. I think that he's somebody that will be a multi-year starter, and I'll even go so far as to say I think he'll be a multi-year captain while he's at Ohio State. I think that highly of him. It's going to be a crowded field, but I mean, again, when you lose your top 4 linebackers, I mean, there's no greater opportunity than that at that point to be, I guess, unless you lose your top 5 linebackers, to be able to walk into the room, and if you go out there and you bring it and you show it, to be able to get in there. But I think that Reed Carrico is somebody that, while it may not happen in year 1 in terms of playing linebacker, I immediately pencil him into special teams. I think he's somebody that if we were not under these weird times in terms of the free year and everything else, I think that they would absolutely use his 4 games to not burn a red shirt just to see what he's able to do, maybe even burn the red shirt, because, I think the world of him. I think he's probably one of the players in that class that we talk about the least, that we should be talking about a lot more.
Yeah, he's a tackling machine, and it probably won't start this year, but they lost 4 guys this year. They lose 3 guys after this coming year, and there's going to be opportunities for him to start. And I think he could play any of the 3 linebacker positions, and I would pencil him in 22 as a starting linebacker at will or the Mike without seeing him yet,
Take away my Buckeye card for not being aware of Reed Carrico, 86th rated player.
You need to go down and see him. You need to go eat at the Scioto River in Portsmouth while you're down there. There's a pretty good brewery down there in Portsmouth as well. I mean, it's a fun trip. Steve's buying.
There we go.
He's on mute. He can't say anything. So
I'm good. I'm good with that. I'd be there.
Well, it's not like the guy's laying in the weeds. 5th rated at his position, 3rd rated player in the state. I just somehow missed him. I went down the list and I was like, I'm going to look for linebackers here. I could only find one. And I'm like, this is the only dude. I don't recall his name. Wow. Okay. Reed Carrico becomes, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, becomes Carrico.
Yeah. I asked him point blank because my recruiting guy was calling him Reed Carrico as well. I'm like, I don't think that's right. And I went down to go see him during some summer workouts, and I was like, look, just set me straight, because I don't want to mispronounce anybody's name except for maybe the kid out of Washington State, and I'll probably never get his name right. But and he's like, no, it's Carrico. So, yeah.
Yes. Kevin is like, how do you pronounce your name? And he's like, Reed.
Exactly. Exactly.
And Ricardo, by the way, I appreciate the NFL questions, but I will not be taking those when we start our NFL channel in 2032. We'll get to your NFL questions.
is very popular.
That's what I hear. That's the rumor out there that few people are not admitting to that, but people watch it and just don't talk about it, I guess.
It's like
Keep
wrestling.
it under wraps. I know that the NFL schedule release is the most overrated event of the year of the sports calendar. I do know that. That's one of my angst against the league, but it's not their fault.
It's
They're
right up
just
there
going-
with the Dodgers pitchers and catchers reporting. It's like, who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares?
Uh,
Stupid Dodgers.
Did they finally win a World Series? They finally got it done, huh?
Finally got it done. They finally got it done. So see you in 30 more years or whatever the heck it is. The way they're spending, I mean, picking up Trevor Bauer and everything else, and re-signing Justin Turner, they got a shot. We'll see. I think that anytime that LA and San Diego plays each other this year, it's going to be must-see TV. But don't worry, the four-letter network is going to still beat over our heads at Boston. New York Yankees are what we need to watch and live our lives by.
Yeah, their 18 games are the most important 18 games of the entire season. So,
All right. Ohio State football talk, and we didn't even get to the NFL Combine or whatever it is morphed into this year, but we'll get to that next week. We got, of course, check out Steve Hellwagon's work at Bucknuts, Tony Gerdeman, Buckeye Scoop, and, of course, Kevin Noon, Buckeye Grove. Man, these guys do an amazing job just in the little slice that we get each and every week. And we appreciate everyone who appreciates their efforts. So thank you so much for that. All right, boys. Appreciate you coming on. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks.
See ya.